All right, today we're going to look at percent bar graphs, and this is really similar to some stuff we've already done this year. And a matter of fact, we've kind of already seen a few questions like this. But right here, I've got a little table of some votes from a survey of 20 students, and they voted on their favorite class. So we're going to make a percent bar graph from these votes. And if I could either add up all these numbers or I can look right here, we know there's 20 total. So if I want a percent, we should know that I need to make fractions from all of these. So I've got my fractions. Remember, I could divide all these and get decimals and then move my decimal twice to get a percent. But what I'm actually going to do, since I know percents are out of 100, I'm just going to multiply by 5 because 20 times 5 is 100. 6 times 5 is 30. So this is 30%. I'm going to do the same thing on this next one. I know 20 times 5 is 100. So 2 times 5 is 10. So 10% pick science. I'm actually going to erase these up here to give me a little more room. Then I know 8 over 20. I can get that 20 to 100 by multiplying by 5. So 8 times 5 is 40. So 40% pick math. And then 4 out of 20, if I multiply by 5, I get 20%. So there's all my percents. I'm going to rewrite them over here because we're actually going to make a percent bar graph right there. So I've got 30% pick English, 10% pick science, 40% pick math, of course, and 20% picked social studies. So what I'm going to do, we're actually going to make two types of percent bar graphs because there are two different types. The first one I'm going to make is just a pretty basic. I'm actually going to go in the same order they give us. I've got English, I've got science, I've got math, and I'm going to put SS for social studies. And then over here left, I'm going to count by 10 since they're all a multiple of 10. So my English bar is 30%. So I'm just going to make my English go up to 30%. My science was 10%. So my bar is going to go to 10. And my math was 40%. So I'm going to take that math up to 40. And then social studies was 20. So really your percent bar graph is just like a regular bar graph, but instead of having frequency over here, we've got percents over here on the left, on the vertical y-axis. If you want to come back and look at this, you might want to pause it. I'm going to erase this so I actually have room to create the other type of percent bar graph that we actually see a little more often. It's called a percent bar graph. So how I'm going to do this, it's almost the exact same thing. I'm going to keep my counting by tens over here. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. So I'm going to make English this purple color. And we know that English was 30%. So I'm going to put a bar. We're kind of stacking. We're going to stack these on top of each other. It's called a stacked percent bar graph. So I've stacked that up. I get to 30. Then science will make yellow, and science was 10%. So I'm only going to go up 10% more. And that's going to take me to 40. So I'm just kind of stacking them on top of each other. Math, we're going to make blue. And math was 40%. We're already at 40. So I'm going to add 40% onto that, which would take me up to 80. And then lastly, we had social studies, which I will make green. And social studies was 20%, which takes me up to 100%. So a couple of questions over here to consider. It says, do your percents add up to 100%? Why do you think this would be important? Yes. The most important thing is they're always going to add up to 100%, because 100, we're taking a percentage of votes. So if our percents don't add up to 100, we did something wrong, because all of these are a part out of the same total. They have to add up to 100%. So if you ever see a percent bar graph that's not up to 100%, there is some kind of error in it. So then my next question says, what percent of the people surveyed said math or English? Well, if I look, we knew English was 30% and math was 40%. So together, that would give me 70% of the people. Real quick, before we do this last question, our word of the day, or I guess phrase of the day, is IQR. Okay, our last one, this is also a percent bar graph. You can see our percents down here. This is just horizontal instead of vertical. So we're going to find the percents for these three. So if I look for agriculture is blue, and it's right over here, and it goes from 0 to right above 50. I'm just going to round it to 50. So agriculture is about 50%. If I look at services, which is green, it goes from about 50. I'm going to say that's about 85. So I can't just put 85% for services. I've got to actually subtract those. So 85 minus 50 gives me 35. So services is 35%. And then last but not least is industry over here. It goes from 85 to 100. Again, we're not going to put 100%. We're going to have to subtract to figure out those percents, and I get 15%. Now, quick way to double check. We could always add those up, and we would get 100 in this case. But really and truly, y'all, a percent bar graph is just the exact same thing as a regular bar graph. We're just using percents. If it's stacked, make sure they're stacked on top of each other, and make sure you're figuring out how the width of the actual section, not where the percent ends. If you have questions, pop in our Google Meet. We'll be happy to help you all out.